Hi friends, new summary of the week, but it will be today in not ordinary format. Today we'll talk with you through the questions and answer session, and we'll try to answer to the many main and important, very hot questions which are standing now in informational environment around Ukraine. The first question about the negotiation between Ukraine and Russia, or to be more specified, the triangle United States, Ukraine, and Russia. Now, to talk, to say honesty, these negotiations stopped, fully stopped. Of course, we have some kind of technical consultations between the sides of the conflict. The special services are maintaining their contacts and continuing to change the information. But political part of this process, possible political development of these contacts are blocked, is blocked, and it looks like it will be blocked for next months till the end of the summer and maybe even later. Witkoff and Kushner, the main representatives of the Trump administration in this case, transferred a very clear signal through American mass media that they are not going to go to Moscow and Kyiv until the positions of the sides will be changed. Until the sides, Ukraine and Russia, will be ready to do something new for discussion. Witkoff and Kushner said that they are not going to make only a photo session in Kyiv and Moscow. So this very tiny network of negotiation is also broken. And it also leads to the situation when the Ministry of External Affairs of Ukraine, Sibiga, said that the Anchorage Anchorage model is already dead. Moscow is also claiming United States or because of this death of Anchorage understanding, and this statement of Witkoff and Kushner, made it unofficially through American mass media, also shows that now United States changing their position slowly, gradually changing their position, and they are not going to insist on fulfillment of Anchorage agreement by their Russian demand, and they are not going to insist of withdrawing of Ukrainian forces from Donetsk Oblast in a change of stopping, in a change of ceasefire, which Moscow promised for it. But it means that everything is stopped. Stopped because Ukraine and Russia, both sides, are claiming their victory in the war, because the resources of the sides are not exhausted, and they are trying to persuade their society, Ukrainian and Russian society, and their allies, that they are still able to reach their goals in this war by military tools. And so there is no place for American diplomacy. United States is not going to make over pressure and over wills in this situation, the situation when Ukraine and Europe resist American wills to find some kind of deal with Russia. Also, America is not going to make an additional and big pressure over the Russia, because United States think that this is a straight path to the escalation, nuclear escalation, and possible involvement, forced involvement of United States in this conflict. So we are in military balance now. In this situation, United States will be waiting for the ending of a summer military campaign of Russia and Ukraine. Entire this military campaign has a very antagonistic developments. From one side, we see the very fast growing of Ukrainian capabilities in terms of middle and deep strikes on Russian energy infrastructure, on Russian logistic, and so on. We have special data which shows that Ukrainian strikes grew up in 10 times comparing the same time of the last year. And of course, and it is a visible Ukrainian advantage on Russian anti-aircraft and anti-missile system, and it leads to a very dramatical increasing of Russian losses, economical and reputational losses in this war. It's one part, it's one side of this coin. But from the other side of this coin, it's not so good for Ukraine because the Russian offensive operation is still going on in Donbas and Zaporizhia direction, and there is no any significant signs that Ukraine recaptured the initiative in the battlefield. And week by week, Russia captures very additional square kilometers of Ukrainian territories. For example, during the last week, more than 20 kilometers. Oh, of course, it's a very small amount for such a big country as Ukraine. But Russian offensive operation is still moves. And we don't see a very effective Ukrainian counter offensive operation still. So the initiative in the battlefield still is in Russian hands. Even taking account that the number of the direction of Russian offensive operation is decreasing comparing the last years, and it looks like Russia is close to some kind of maybe military exhaustion. Also, we need to take into account that Russia has, of course, much more resources than Ukraine and could spread it much more for the battlefield, but there is one important obstacle for Russia. I'm talking about the Russian parliamentary election in September 20. And before that election, Putin is not ready to go to the next levels of escalation. She's not ready to make additional mobilization, or she is not ready to use a nuclear weapon or something like this. She is not ready because she wants peace and silence in society. She wants to keep these feelings of a good life in Russia, feelings of the future of the Russia, and feelings of the peace inside of Russia. She wants to keep these feelings inside of Russian society. So she is not ready to go. She doesn't want to break this confidence in Russian society. So she's tight now because of this election process. And this election process in Russia is still very competitive. At least 5 parties are really pretending to the seats in the parliament. And of course, the result of the Единая Россия, United Russia, its presidential party, it could be so kind of semi-referendum on Putin's political course, also toward Ukraine. So because Putin is trying to maintain things as it is now, but after election, Russia will be able again to go to the further escalation in terms of big mobilization campaign, in terms of maybe nuclear dangers, and so on and so on and so on. We need to understand it. So we have a very, not very big window of opportunities for Ukraine. At tactical advantages in deep strikes and middle strikes, in drone mostly, not in rockets. At the same time, Russia has an advantage in aircrafts and ballistic rockets. And at the same time, Russia still has and keeping advantage in the battlefield and slowly grabbing Ukrainian territories, occupying new cities, for example, like Konstantinovka, which is almost lost for Ukraine. And all these antagonistic trends because of these antagonistic trends, many international experts are confusing and don't understand what is going on in real life. Moreover, many of them using many of them use propagandistic tools to persuade their governments, their audience in victory one or other side. We are trying to avoid as much as is possible any propaganda in this channel, so don't forget to put the like and to subscribe for this channel to hear and to look for independent political analysis. So peaceful protest stopped. In the battlefield, we have two antagonistic trends, and when they crossed, in which trend will be stopped the first, we still don't know. Everything is going on to the American midterm elections and to Russian elections also. And these elections are very important in the terms of balance of the power and the course of United States, and in the terms of the referendum for Putin course inside of Russia. After that election, I think some kind of changes of the course also could possible. And what is going on around Ukraine? Moreover, this conflict is still very bad managed. So because it may involve additional countries and forces. For example, the crisis around Belarus and maybe Poland even shows us very clear that in any moment Belarus-Ukrainian war may be started. And of course, because Ukraine claimed Belarus of supporting of Russian strikes, drone strikes on Ukrainian territory. Of course, Ukrainian president stated that Belarus switched all their repeaters, which help Russia a lot to do strikes on Ukrainian territory. We don't know exactly are these repeaters exist at all? Are they working? But statement of Ukrainian president shows that Ukraine is not going in the nearest future to start a military campaign against Belarusian territory, but strategically there are still a very significant risks, because if this war will go on in the future, in any case, Russia will try to capture the capital of Ukraine, Kyiv, and this capital of Ukraine is situated is very close to the Belarusian border. So the Belarusian border and Belarusian direction is the simplest, shortest way for a Russian offensive operation towards the Kyiv, which may be made in the next years. It's not only my assumption. The head commander of military forces of Ukraine, Mr. Syrskyi, said that Russia is preparing some kind of plans for intervention to the Kyiv direction, for Kyiv occupation from the Belarusian territory, attacking from the Belarusian territory and attacking from the Bryansk Oblast. So it's not only rumors, it's almost official statements about these risks. They are still very visible. But maybe for Western opinion, it's very strange to hear such confusing statements. From one side, many Western statements and many Ukrainian officials are saying that Russia is losing this war. Russia is losing this war. And from other side, they are saying that Russia is going on to go to the Kyiv direction, or even make an offensive operation on Baltic countries and Poland. How is it possible, friends? If Russia is losing this war, Russia cannot has any resources for additional offensive operation. If Russia has some additional forces for operation towards the Kyiv direction, or against Poland, or against Baltic countries, does it mean that Russia isn't losing this war? Who is saying not truth in this moment? Please write me down in your comments what is the madness type of thinking in many English-speaking literature we are seeing now. Moreover, talking about these peace claims about the ceasefire and so on, it looks like it's also a game from the both sides. And not Ukraine nor even Russia are ready to ceasefire now. And Putin said that Ukraine suggested to narrow the battlefield territory only for the territory of 4 oblasts of Ukraine: Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, and Russia declined it. Putin also said that Ukraine proposed some kind of air ceasefire, of energy ceasefire. Russia is also declined it. Moreover, and Ukrainian and Russian demands for a ceasefire with some preliminary conditions. Russian condition is withdrawing Ukrainian forces from Donetsk Oblast. Ukrainian condition that Ukraine is not going to take back Ukrainian demands on Russia on international courts or other issues and so on. All these ultimatum demands, preliminary conditions, are showing us clearly that both sides are not willing to stop war right now. Moreover, these positions also were changed many times during the war. For example, this idea of a ceasefire through the battlefield, the front line, was fully declined by Ukrainian side in 2023 and 2024, when China and some additional mediators suggested it. In 2023, 2024, this idea was called as pro-Russian idea which is very necessary only for Russia because it helps Russia to strengthen its own control over occupied territory. So the Russian demands are also not so big as it was before. We don't hear any denazification, demilitarization, and many others, any from Russian side last months. Positions of the sides are changing, but they are changing because of the diplomatical game. Each of sides is trying to win this war, not only on the battlefield, but also through the diplomatic game in the face of Trump, in the face of neutral world, which is only observing this war and this situation. Real negotiation process hasn't started. Real negotiation process needs silence, needs very polite communication between sides, and needs guarantees, very strong guarantees from mediators, not in terms of security of the sides, but in terms of fulfillment of possible agreements and consensuses. So, because we are still far away, Ukraine needs additional 146 billions of dollars for 29 years for continuation of this fight. Also, accelerating of Ukrainian entry into European Union provokes another conflicts and argues. I'm talking about that Italian veto for additional Ukrainian money for Ukraine in 2027. And I'm talking about the relations between Ukraine and Poland in terms of this historical issue. This is historical argue after which Polish officials said that they will not let Ukrainian enter in Europe if Ukraine will not decline this cult of Bandera and Ukrainian rebel army, which Poland claims guilty in mass killing during the Second World War. Also, the explosions in Monaco, and when Ukrainian oligarch Yermolayev was injured together with his son and the woman near him, shows that this Ukrainian war has influence on security for entire Europe. And this first terror in Monaco which is very safe place for living for the richest people in the Europe, also could change, may change the attitude to Ukrainian issue and to Ukrainians, even rich Ukrainians abroad. Some French media are claiming that Ukrainian special service in this situation, but we are still don't know the facts. If you are interested in more details about this case, also please write down. I will give some additional explanations, but now I don't want to waste a lot of time for it. And Nord Stream 2 case, you know that the prosecutor office of Germany claimed Ukrainian soldiers, Ukrainian officers in preparing and blasting the Nord Stream 2 pipeline gas stream in 2022. Moreover, in this claim, official claim, which sold to the court, German prosecutor is saying that this Ukrainian officer fulfilled an order of high military commanders. And who was that higher military commander? Was it Zaluzhny or Zelensky? We don't know, because European mass media called the first and the second in different articles and difficult investigations. But this case entirely could lead Ukraine to a very hard consequences in terms of compensations for these pipelines, in terms of reputation, because this explosion, this blast of that pipelines was made in neutral territory. It was an informal hiding operation without any informing of allies, special service, and so on. It was unfriendly operation and unlaw operation in terms of European law. So because it could lead to some problems and could even make some influence on Ukrainian future presidential elections, because Zaluzhny and Zelensky both are main competitors for the future presidential election in Ukraine. And what is more important? Only one thing want to say. In the end, it looks like this fragmentation and in Europe and this losing of confidence about the future of this conflict is growing on. And many people are trying, and the experts are trying to persuade their audience that we are very close to the end of the war. Unfortunately, we are not exactly close to the end of the war. I don't think that not Zelensky nor even Putin will be ready to accept any peace formula or peace agreement under the pressure, because it's a question of their reputation. And the Ukrainian people, as the Russian people, are ready to suffer much more, even they are suffering now. Their patience could be a main resource for Zelensky and Putin in the continuation of this war. So this war may go on for next years. And I said before, in the beginning of the war, it will be a very long war. But many people said 2-3 weeks or 1 year till the end of the 2022. I think you remember these statements. But if without any very hard and united international interruption in this situation, united interruption of European Union, United States, and maybe China in this situation, this war may continue for a long time. And as long it continues, as harder consequences of it will be in the end. Because the winner of this war in the end will demand everything. Because of hard losses, people losses, economical losses, and so on. In any case, in the end of this war, we will see the new dragon of Europe, the new leader of Europe. It even doesn't matter who will win this war. And the second consequence is it exhausts Europe, European resources, and it makes Europe unstable region for a long time. It could involve European governments in this war directly. And situation with the First World War and Second World War, both world wars happened in Europe, created in Europe, and this situation may be repeated. Of course, it's not a so risky for United States or for China. For example, they are far away from these conflicts, and they may be the main beneficiary of this war. But thank you, friends, for watching this video, this podcast. Please write down your questions. Please make your comments under this video, and don't forget to subscribe. And if I will see that you are still interested in my podcast, of course, I will do the best to continue it. See you.